Hi everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo. I'm going to bring you a short video because, like the title says, I went to my first live show in 2 years. And it was last night. The last time I went to a live show was an outdoor concert in August of 2019 and haven't been to any since. And so I went last night to see Mdou Moctar. And I've talked about this in a previous video, but I tell you, this was a really, really incredible show. And it was here in Chicago at a fairly small venue called Lincoln Hall, which is not very far from where I live. And when I found out about it, I ended up buying my ticket just a couple days before the concert. And, even with the added fees for buying online, the ticket was still $23. And it was such a great show. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the show, not a whole lot really, but I want to also talk about the opening act. Because they were really super interesting and, far cry from the musical style of Mdou Moctar. Now, the band that opened up was, their name is Pure Adult. And as written on this one website I found about them, because there's not a lot of information out there. I thought maybe they might have been around for a while, but at least as this band, Pure Adult, they haven't really been around very long, just a couple of years. And there's no entry for them at all in Discogs. So it's like, I think their music is pretty much only available electronically. So they have a page in Bandcamp where they have some material. But I found this other site called ohmyrockness.com, and they had just this tiny little write-up about them. I mean, it's just, there really isn't a lot of information. So the two main creative forces in Pure Adult is this guy and woman, and I got to make sure I have the right. Okay, yeah. There's Jeremy Snyder, and then Bianca Abarca. And Jeremy and Bianca trade off doing vocals and also trade off playing keyboard synthesizer. Although their bass player, the bass player, oh man, I don't know who he is. And the drummer, I don't know who he is. There was no information about them. But the bass player also had a mini Moog. So they're getting really heavy beats. And in fact, I would say their sound kind of comes down to two things. And of course, I wrote this down so I could remember. And then what did I do? I put my little notepad someplace else. Okay, so in general, the beat and sound of them, I hear Beastie Boys and Rage Against the Machine. Very much that style of, as this writer called them, Pure Adult is pure experimental punk shit. And it really is pretty powerful stuff. So on that aspect, their sound is, very in your face, very much, as I say, like Beastie Boys and Rage Against the Machine. But the guy who plays guitar, and I don't know who he is, he's really into effects and distortion. And, it's not like punk guitar where you're playing your 2 or 3 chords, and power chords and playing them, as hard and loud as you can. He is, as I say, much more into different types of effects. So that's where you get this sound that's more, I think they were more influenced by Sonic Youth and Jesus and Mary Chain. So you're going to get that kind of, guitar sound in this wall of sound backdrop to go with the very aggressive beats and raps that, you know, as I say, are reminiscent of Beastie Boys and Rage Against the Machine. They have one EP out on Bandcamp. It's just called Pure Adult. And it's got, let's see, 6 songs on it. They have some other singles, some recent ones. One is called Cam Girls. I've listened to that. It's really quite good. And then Mise en Scène, which is French for the arrangement or scenery or the setting, like in a play or in a film, the milieu in which the characters are interacting or engaging with each other. That is the mise en scène. So those are the singles that are on Bandcamp. So I really, you know, and I'll have a link to their page to Bandcamp and the Down Under, and I really recommend you check them out, especially if you do like the bands I mentioned: Beastie Boys, Rage Against the Machine, Sonic Youth, Jesus and Mary Chain, because I think you'll agree with me that you'll hear those influences. Now they're touring with Mdou Moctar because they were, as I observed at the venue, you know, they were in charge of setting up not just their own equipment, but also the equipment for Mdou Moctar and his band. And I tell you, if you haven't ever heard of Mdou Moctar, you really, really, really should. He is, you know, he's going to be among my, you know, top 5 guitarists, you know, around. He is, his 2 musical influences that I am aware of that, you know, he said in different interviews, are Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen. And the interesting thing about Mdou Moctar, he comes from the country Niger, and he plays this style of music that's called the Touareg style of music, and he comes from this very remote town city. It's a couple thousand people, I think, but you know, it's in the just about in the Saharan realm of Africa, and you know, mud houses and, you know, dusty streets and whatnot, very isolated. And the story is that when he first heard somebody playing guitar, he was like, as a, you know, he was a kid, he had to learn how to play guitar. But to get a guitar was like very, very difficult in the area where he lived. And so he made a guitar out of a box, and he unraveled bicycle cable to make the strings. And he's completely self-taught. And right here, I got a little 30-second clip from the show that you can kind of get a little glimpse of his style in the way he plays, okay? So it's, I mean, I just did this little clip because I wanted to really just be immersed in the show. I didn't want to be thinking about, you know, making a video snippet or something like that. I wanted to experience the show, and gee, it was just pretty amazing. So anyway, here's the clip. So you can see what his style of playing is. He doesn't play chords. Now, he's completely self-taught. He doesn't play chords, and he is doing both hammering the strings with his fingers on the neck and fretting, and then, you know, he's picking with his fingers. And he also uses what I've talked about this in a video recently about Frank Zappa, this Bulgarian bagpipe method, which is like you're hammering with one hand and then you're also hammering down on the string. Frank Zappa would use a pick, but as I said, Mdou Moctar does not use a pick. He's using his fingers. His playing, further into the show, he would get lost in the playing, but then at the same time he was just so very casual, that his fingers are going crazy, and he's kind of like getting into the groove of the music, and he's also chatting away with his rhythm guitar player. So that's the guy who's going to play the chords for him, and he plays on this white Fender. I think it's a Stratocaster. That he's had for ever and ever and ever. It was a gift. But yeah, there were moments where his playing, he was channeling, particularly, I would say, Hendrix. And there was even one song where it kind of sounded like it was Voodoo Child, but it wasn't. But he just... Truly, he just would get lost in the playing. Really super amazing show. I'm so glad I decided to go. And gosh, so cheap. Now the other musicians in his band. Okay, so there's Mdou himself. Okay, who's doing the lead guitar and the vocals. Now there's Amadou Madasane, who is doing the rhythm guitar. And I tell you what, that sucker can play too. Both of them can put the stink on the guitar. They are just really amazing. And then you've got Michael Colton, who is on bass guitar, and just incredible rhythm, just incredible playing also on bass guitar. And then on drums, all right, is Soleiman Ibrahim. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the names. Man, that guy bangs those skins. He's just, at times, frenetic. And there are moments when, the rhythm of the song will pick up, just by a couple extra beats per minute. And then pick up and go to like another level. And he's right there to pick it up, because a lot of times he follows the transitions that Mdou is introducing into the song. And sometimes Mdou, he decides that he's going to play this a bit faster. I mean, I know they rehearsed this, but the drummer is right there, keeping up with those time changes. Just amazing. I'm just so glad. This is the only album I have by them. There are others. And he played an acoustic set. He played a couple acoustic songs in the beginning, and then he picked up the Strat, and just wowed everybody. He was so tired at the end of the show that, when they all went off, I did not think it was that warm inside the venue, but, he was like taking part of this enormous scarf that he has wrapped around him, wiping the sweat from his face, because he was just jamming into it. And then when they went off stage, they did come back out for an encore, but it was just the band. Mdou didn't come out right away. And they said that he was very, very thirsty. But yeah, because he just, really, to me, he just really did pour himself into playing. And then he did come back out during the final song, but he didn't pick up his guitar. Rather, he just danced with this other person on the stage, that was part of their, entourage. So just very, very smooth, beautiful dance. but he didn't pick up the guitar, and then he walked off stage again as the band, you know, finished that encore piece. Yeah, it was pretty amazing stuff. So if you haven't checked out Mdou Moctar, please do. I mean, I've got that little clip in the Down Under, but you know, this particular album, Afrique Victim, is, you know, fairly widely available right now. It is his most recent album, but he's got some others out there. Very interesting backstory to his life. You know, in fact, there's this situation, you know, because where they're from in Niger is so remote that the only way his songs would get circulated is by people, you know, passing the songs to each other on their phones, you know. So it's just, you know, pretty amazing growth in his popularity, and I definitely, whenever there's going to be a chance for me to see another show of his, I am going to be checking it out. You should too. And so please remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.